I'm Jeremy McCarthy, the Group Director of Spa and Wellness for Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. And we're thinking about digital detox and how we can help our guests to manage their relationship with technology and stress in the modern age. And I'm here at the Mayo Clinic, recently rated the #1 hospital in the US by US News and World Report. And I'm here with Dr. Sood, who's a professor of medicine at Mayo Clinic and is the chair of the Mayo Mind-Body Initiative. And I'm here to learn as much as I can about some of the work that's being done here at Mayo Clinic. Dr. Sood also has authored a few books, including the Mayo Clinic Handbook for Happiness, a 4-step plan for resilient living. So I think there's a lot of information here that can help us with our digital detox initiative. And I want to thank you for taking some time with me today.
Thank you. Lovely to be with you, Jeremy.
Great. So maybe to start off with, you can tell me a little bit about the Mayo Mind-Body Initiative. What is that and what kinds of things are you focused on here?
Yeah, so when we look at mind-body medicine, it is influencing the mind to have better health for the body. So how mind can affect the body. What we have done is we have looked at the whole issue of stress and resilience from a very deep and a slightly different perspective, in that we are looking at the neuroscience, the evolutionary biology, the psychology, the philosophy, and combining that all together to understand the current challenges in evolutionary context. Why do we have negativity bias? Why our mind wanders 2/3 of the day? Why do we adapt to good very quickly? Why do we have negative comparisons, et cetera, et cetera? And by combining all those different disciplines, we have found a model that really validates people and helps them understand the core basis of their struggles. Now, when people understand that and they realize that actually, you know what, I'm not crazy. Everybody has some level of struggle. Like in the clinical practice, I often have patients tell me, "Doctor, I'm the only one hurting. Everybody else in the lobby seems okay." And now if every patient is saying the same thing, that you know that we are all struggling. So we have a way of sharing common humanity and a very normalizing sort of approach. Based on those insights, then, we help people understand how they can engage the right part of the brain, how they can overcome the evolutionary baggage that we carry as a species, and happiness, mindfulness, lower stress, lower anxiety, greater resilience, better relationships, better healthcare behaviors, all of those are a natural byproduct of that. So what Mayo Mind-Body Initiative has done is to collect all that information and disseminate it. So we have 3 wings. We have education, research, and practice. So we see about 5,000 patients a year at Mayo Clinic and help them with this program. We see about 50,000 learners every year through the education part, and we conduct research studies. We have done over 20 clinical trials and found this approach to be very beneficial.
And what do you think in this modern age of technology? A lot of technology is beneficial, and people are using now apps and wearable devices to help monitor their wellness, even to learn mindfulness and meditative practices. But we're also relying on technology, and technology is pushing us to, be productive every waking moment of every day and always connected and adding some stress to our lives in that way. So how much do you think technology is helping us, and how much do you think technology is hurting us?
If I may reframe your question, how much are we helping ourselves versus hurting ourselves?
Yeah,
so we humans have a unique way of taking some wonderful progress and turn it back against ourselves. We packaged food. As a result, we created calorie-dense food. We refrigerated, and now that has gone on to caloric excess. There's nothing inherently wrong with food, but when we eat a lot and wrong kind of food and munch it all day long, then that leads to weight gain. Technology is a bit like that. So there is nothing vile or evil about technology, but it is how we apply it. First, we handcuff ourselves with technology. You know, if we go on a trip and our iPhone battery is down to 15%, then the family is in crisis, right? There's something called cell phone battery anxiety. So we've become so dependent on, about 70-80% people have cell phone battery anxiety, and very few people do something about it. That's what one of the recent research studies show. So we've become very dependent on technology. We've also become very fascinated with technology, and technology has disconnected us from each other. See, technology that connects us to each other and brings the world together is wonderful. Technology that creates fractures in our family. If I have 1,000 followers on social media who like me, where is the need to hug my mom? I mean, when technology does that to us, then it is hurting us. So I think responsibly engaging with technology, leveraging it to enhance our relationship, improve our efficiency, and of course medical breakthroughs and all that, I think that would be Goldilocks. And for that, we need to control ourselves. We need to be more mindful about how we use technology.
And what kind of tips would you recommend to people, or strategies to establish boundaries around technology use or adopt better habits around the way we interact with technology? Do you have any suggestions for people?
Sure. I think first step is to understand ourselves, understand our vulnerability to short-term gratification. Because an email is like a virtual hug. Mm-hmm. You know, we were hunter-gatherers in the past for food. Now we are hunter-gatherers for information. I was recently with a friend at a birthday party, and I was sharing some very important information with him, and halfway into it, a physician, he stopped me and he said, "Amit, I like you. What you're saying is interesting, but I have tremendous urge to check my emails right now." And so he took off, checked his emails, and came back after 2 minutes. So I think we need to create those sort of boundaries. But first, we have to understand that we are very vulnerable to short-term gratifications, be it donut, be it email. We also need to understand what technology is doing to us. The 3 organs in the body that are hurt the most by technology are our brain, our eyes, and our heart. So technology causes drying of our cornea. When you're looking at screen for more than 60 minutes or so, your eyes dry up, you lose focus. When you're looking at screen for a long time, over a period of months and years, it can lead to actually atrophy in some of the critical areas of the brain that host attention, that host emotional processing, that host compassion. The faster the internet at your home, the less patient you are, according to one study. And similarly, heart, when you're watching TV for more than 4 hours a day on an ongoing basis, you can double your risk of heart attack. There's that correlation. So the first step is to become aware of our own vulnerabilities and what is happening to us. Then comes action. What can we do about it? So for example, I can share in my own personal life, one is, do not fill every awake moment with something that should be very information dense. You know, it is so difficult these days to hold conversation with anyone in the elevator, you know, because everybody is like that praying mantis, you know, they're looking at their iPhone. So it's because we have become so resistant, so averse to boredom. We don't know how to get bored, so relearn getting bored. Do not fill every awake moment with technology. Have some sort of discipline at home. So you come home, for first 1 hour is social time. That is a time for the family to come together and connect with each other, minus the technology. You know, an average family these days is together for about 90 seconds before they are off doing what they were doing at 6 o'clock in the evening, according to one research from California. So people are so disconnected. So becoming aware, putting away technology for the first 1 hour. Similarly, dinner time. Dinner table, we shouldn't be dining on emails. We should be dining on real food, and we should be dining on looking at each other's eyes and listening to each other's voices and concerns and joys and so on. So creating that kind of discipline. The third thing we can do is we need to make sure that our presence is comforting and healing for others. For example, typically what happens in families these days is the moment parents are at home, they begin, oh, that clutter is not taken care of. Did you do your homework? So kids associate us with feeling bad about themselves. So we need to break that connection. My focus is many days is how can I make sure that our kids find me cool? So I want to be more interesting to them than social media is. Those are some very simple initial steps. I know there are wonderful websites and email programs that can limit the number of, can monitor, where you're visiting, and you can really use very sophisticated technological ways to cut down your use of technology. But those would be my initial suggestions.
Yeah, those are great. And I love that you bring in the family component. And when I first met Dr. Sood, I asked him what his title was, and his answer was, first, I'm a husband and a father. So when we think about our kids and raising our kids around technology, I mean, this is the first generation that's growing up with all these handheld devices and all this kind of always connected, always on technologies. How should we be raising our kids to have a healthy relationship with technology, and how do we instill in them the right habits from an early age so that they aren't dealing with issues with vision, with heart, with brain problems and things like that when they get older?
Yeah, and I think first step is to recognize that this will be around them. This is their norm. Like in early 1900s, you didn't have TV, and so radio came, then TV came, then all these gadgets have come. So and this is really on a rapid. The internet keeps getting faster, etc. So they will be surrounded by it. You cannot prevent them from, otherwise they will not be cool in their class. They will be left behind. So you have to come to that acceptance that this is going to be part of their life. The second part is to educate them about responsible use of technology, where they, for example, creating some boundaries such as what we have, our 12-year-old has a smartphone because she has allergies and we need to make sure she's okay, but we really limit on the number of texts that she can send or receive. She's not allowed to text on dining table, or when we are driving, we engage in conversation. So creating those kinds of boundaries and informing kids. Third and very, very important part is to be yourself disciplined about appropriate use of technology. They say, be careful about what they are watching more than what they are listening you speak. So you have to embody that kind of behavior where you yourself are disciplined in technology. Those would be my core ideas, accepting they will be using technology, teaching them responsible use of technology, and being yourself responsible and demonstrating that kind of behavior.
As you mentioned how fast technology is changing, and it is pervasive, and it is kind of the future, so I like that point about acceptance. But I also notice right now that there's a real generation gap where you have the grandparents who aren't communicating with the same tools as their grandkids are growing up. Do you have any thoughts around how we can bridge that generation gap, or what's the impact on people who are kind of being cut out of certain pathways of communication as the channels are switching so rapidly from one generation to the next?
Yeah, so my dad is 82, my mom is 81 or 82, and there is a real risk of them being isolated if they are not so connected with us with the right technology, and they live overseas. So about 6-8 years ago, we invested in getting an iPad for them. And so he is amongst the coolest 82-year-olds around, and he's very proud of it. Amongst all my uncles and elders, he's the one who knows everything about iPads and other such devices. So we do FaceTime almost every week. And so we connect grandkids with grandparents. So, and he knows a lot about if our 12-year-olds, one device is malfunctioning, he actually comes and fixes it, and he feels very good about it. So I think us in this generation, as I see in our elder generation, we have to lend a hand and we have to take that initiative and not be afraid of technology. I mean, smartphones and all these gadgets, they can't bite us. My father was very afraid, and I said, the worst that you can do is put a virus into this, and that's okay. So, and that created a level of comfort for him. So we need to really embrace technology in a responsible way and connect with kids. I don't want my daughter to be texting the world without me texting her. So I text her and I receive her text. And actually, most of the texts that I send her, I sort of try to put some humor or some way to enhance her self-esteem. So she looks forward to my text, or at least put some heart emojis or something so that it is pink and yellow and green and engaging for her. So being a little bit, being a little bit savvy with time, so you change, so you don't create us versus they. I don't use technology. I don't use email. Sort of joining in with the train. The only way you can change the train is if you join in. If you're standing on the platform, the train is going to pass you by. And I definitely do not want to, embrace technology after our daughter has left for college. I want to do it now as she's growing up.
Now, a lot of people are using technology to try and enhance or monitor their own personal wellness. So we see a lot of our guests wearing wearable devices, using apps on their smartphones. Are there particular technologies that you think are very helpful, or that you recommend that people use for things like that? Or do you suggest, kind of veering off of the digital world for those kinds of activities?
Yeah, so personally, I believe in feedback, the whole science of getting feedback. But we can get too obsessive about feedback. For example, if you use a device to meditate, that's fine. You have an online program or something. But if you are forcing yourself to get that green color on the device, then it's very anti-meditative, because then it's all about letting go and relaxing and having a sense of acceptance and compassion, not a particular color that should show up on the device. And through monitoring heart rate variability or galvanic skin response or things of that nature, I mean, we can get too far very quickly with technology. So I cannot recommend a particular, I don't personally use any technology to guide my own wellness, other than perhaps my smartphone registers how much I'm walking. Intelligent way of getting feedback in terms of your physical activity, perhaps, in terms of your quality of sleep, in terms of certainly numbers like cholesterol and blood sugar and all that, that is fine. But we shouldn't get too caught up in, did I eat, 32 grams of protein? Oh it's only 28 grams I ate yesterday. I mean, that doesn't matter. Did I walk? Oh, I didn't meet my 10,000 goal yesterday. And then you get, a little bit depressed. And I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but so rational use there. Yes, feedback, but optimally. One way that you can really leverage technology to enhance your personal wellness is technology that enables social communication. So you have a public affairs group at Mayo, or in Mandarin hotels you have admin group. They band together to create 5K walk, and you create a website or your own personal app, and everybody's tracking each other's progress, and people are buddying up and supporting each other. That's very good, because that ends up not only people inspiring each other, but also creating a long-term connection around a good goal. So that, I think, will be a wonderful use of technology.
Yeah, good. We definitely see that within our organization as well, people coming together and using technology in that way. I want to ask you a little bit about mindfulness and meditation, because that seems to be a huge trend right now, and science seems to be very supportive of the benefits of this. But when I talk to people, what I hear from a lot of people is, I tried to meditate, but it was too difficult, or I can't turn off my mind. And so I think a lot of people are trying it but getting frustrated. Is there any suggestions that you have for a beginner who wants to get started in learning about mindfulness or adopting a meditation practice? What's the best way to get started?
Yeah, so if you look at what meditation is and how it evolves, so meditation, if you say, developed in 3 to 4 to 5,000 years ago, the world was very different at that time. It was very treacherous world. Humans were living to age 25 or 30. We were surrounded by a very poor quality environment. There were ditches and unmarked wells and quicksand and all that. You needed very, very strong attention at that time. And because the threats were external, meditation was developed to internalize attention. Now in 2016, threats are more internal. So the way, I started teaching meditation here about 8 years ago at Mayo, and patient after patient would come. They will be very relaxed in the office. 6 months later, they will say, oh, I quit for the same reason that you mentioned. Until one patient said, meditation has become one more thing to feel bad about. So, and then I was hosting His Holiness Dalai Lama at a Mayo event. I think it was in April 2012. So I asked the audience at that time how many people meditate. This was like the virtual who's who of meditation world that had come to Rochester. About a high proportion of people said we meditate. And then I asked how many people find it easy, meditation. Like 2 hands went up. Then Dalai Lama himself shared his own struggles with current struggles with meditation, not when he started. That gave me a significant pause. And I said, I'm really sharing practices with people that are inherently difficult. I'm setting people up for failure, right? So with all that background information, when somebody is starting, we actually prefer externalized attention practices. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We prefer practices that are short. We prefer practices that have attention element, but also positive emotion element at the same time. Meditation is basically intentional, grateful, and compassionate attention. That's how I see meditation. So it is intentional attention, and you have an element of gratitude and or compassion to it. For example, in our program, a core meditation practice is what we call morning gratitude, where for 2 minutes when you wake up, before you step on the carpet, you think about 3 or 5 people in your life who help you feel worthy, who you are grateful for, and send them a silent gratitude. You visualize their face, their color of eyes, maybe the first memory of connecting with them. And almost everybody who practices this is able to do it right away. I've had people now who are practicing it 5-7 years out, and everybody feels very relaxed at the end of it. So that is one practice. Cultivating curiosity during the day. So for example, looking at a daisy and looking at all its intricate details, that is micro meditation. Another very simple practice when you go home, 2 seconds or 3 seconds, look at the color of your loved one's eyes and just notice that. That is micro meditation. Another micro meditation is when you go back home, for the first 2 minutes, choose not to improve anybody. It's going to be difficult. And meet them as if they are your long lost friend. So what we've tried to do is practices that are really built in people's lives, that give quick reward, that are sprinkled multiple times during the day. So we do not add more milk to people's glass of milk, we put chocolate powder in the milk. So, and we've done multiple studies and people derive the same benefit in terms of the degree of improvement in stress and resilience and quality of life. Actually, in some instances, double the benefit. And we can teach all of this in an hour to 2 hours. And it doesn't take any time for people to practice it. Those are the kind of practices I think are needed in 2016 and beyond. Now, when your attention has become stronger, better, and you have better access to positive emotions with these practices, then you can go for the traditional practice of sitting and focusing on breath or emptiness or whatever. So that's how I see it staged, and it makes when you look at if I had all the PowerPoint, etc., I could share some of the brain images. When you look at how brain operates, that makes perfect biological sense.
Yeah, well, I think this is exactly what people need today is points of entry that are accessible so that people aren't getting turned off by it or frustrated because they're trying to bite off more than they can chew or more than their mind is ready
Yes.
for. So I think those are really good suggestions.
If I may add, so this whole idea of emptying the mind cannot be emptied. It's not possible. It was not created to be emptied. It's like you don't want to stop your heart. Heart was not created to be stopped. Similarly, mind was not created to be emptied. So people talk about silence. So you go from noise to silence, but silence is vulnerable. We want to go from noise to silence to melody. We want to go to music. So that is what we're trying to create. The second part is present moment. Every single animal on the planet is in the present moment. Chimpanzees are in the present moment. They are not mind wandering as far as we can tell. And mice are in the present moment, and so are spiders. That doesn't get them enlightened. So it's really not about present moment because that is very difficult. What is important is to be intentional about how you engage with the moment. So there's just two ways you can live. You can be either automatic, instinctive, or intentional. So we focus a lot on intentionality, where instead of letting thinking happen to you, you choose your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's where so then what happens is the whole day becomes sort of a practice of meditation.
Yeah, I think that's a very good distinction. And I think it's kind of what we try to do with our spas, because I think a lot of people think of spa as a place to go to have a beauty treatment or have, the kinks worked out in your muscles with a massage. But I actually think the impact of a spa is much greater if you are intentional about that time that you're spending and kind of recognizing that this is a chance to take some time for yourself away from technology, in silence or just with some nice music, and use that time for what you need to do internally. And that might be focusing on gratitude, thinking about compassion, or just spending some time in mindfulness.
Yeah. So sometimes we talk about relaxation, and you really need a lot of time in relaxation for it to be beneficial. What you want to do is add positive emotions and add motivation. So when you add positive emotions and motivation to relaxation, it becomes very efficient and much, much more potent. And so that is what I think you are and can accomplish in spas, where you offer people an inspiring presence, an inspiring visit that gives them a lot of positive emotions and motivation so they can go back to the world and then come back again a year later.
Yeah. Well, sometimes spa, people will say, well, it's pampering, it's indulgence, it's luxury. Is it really wellness? And I actually think wellness experiences should be pampering and should be indulgent because they should have that positive emotional aspect to them. So we try to deliver that. I think the last question I'd like to ask you is, what do you do? Because we're as a hotel company and we're trying to take care of our guests who are traveling, and we know that travel can be somewhat stressful, can sometimes be an impediment to wellness or a disruption to our wellness routines. What do you do when you travel, or what should we be thinking of as a hotel company to help people when they're traveling in terms of adopting different habits or different rituals that they bring with them to maintain wellness while on the road?
Sure. So what do I personally do? And because one thing is travel can be very different, very many different sorts of travel. So, but anyway, so the single most beneficial, the two most beneficial things that I find about that help me in travel is, one, keep a good book. And so that is one. Two is this perspective that traveling is not about reaching, it is about having a good time with the person you're traveling with. So our goal, when I'm with family traveling, I just want to have good time with them. The flight got delayed, the coffee was not hot. I mean, I was with this gentleman a couple of months ago, and he was so fuming and fretting because his go internet was not working. Everything else is good. You're sipping the drink that you like, and no pain or anything. Everybody's courteous, and we didn't have that internet a year or 2 years ago. So anyway, so traveling is about having a good time with the people you are traveling with. So keep that perspective. I usually carry a book or a project or something else that engages me when I'm traveling. A very good habit during travel is to look at old family pictures, which I sadly don't notice most people doing. People look at sometimes, toxic movies and, programs. I mean, I've sat with people who've been watching. I mean, they are just consuming this high energy, and by the time they reach at midnight, their adrenaline is pumping actually. And we take trillions of pictures every year, but we seldom watch them. We don't watch family videos. So watching your family pictures, family videos when you're traveling. Traveling is also a very good time to heal your relationships. People tend to overpack their stuff in terms of overpack their schedule. It's really not about overpacking. It's about really that is a time for the family to heal their relationship, to come together. What do I personally do? And do not fall off the wellness bandwagon. For example, these walkways, I mean, there have been studies that have shown that in the airport, whether you go on a walkway or you walk by yourself, you don't go any faster. You might feel you're going faster on the walkway, but might as well walk rather than going on the walkway. Be very careful about the calories that you eat. Eat healthy when you are traveling. Traveling doesn't mean you consume 1,500 calorie lunch, and it is very easy to do that these days. And I think those are some of the ideas to keep to sort of get the most out of travel and not fall off the wellness bandwagon.
Well, this is great. We've gotten so many practical suggestions and tips and things that people can do to manage stress and technology in the modern age. Thank you so much for taking some time with me today. It was a real pleasure.
Sure. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you for having me.